Welcome to McChats here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. Once again, I'm your host, Mike McG, joined again by horror movie and exploitation movie co-host here on McChats, Dan Baugher from 3 Geeks Podcast.
Hello.
So, how you been, Dan, since I talked to you?
Pretty good. Had a horrible stint of Neon Demon last night, but other than that, pretty good.
So we'll get into that very soon. But I thought we actually have two movies we're going to be addressing today. I thought we could actually start off the palette with something maybe a little bit more mild before we get into, I'm sure, what will be a vehement discussion on Neon Demon. Had a chance to, for me at least, rewatch Southland Tales. But for Dan, was this your first time watching it?
Yeah. I mean, I watched it on your recommendation a couple months ago, and then I rewatched it for this, but I didn't watch it when it came out.
In my long quest to see if I could find a movie to upset Dan, Southland was one of the options. So, Southland Tales is actually the second movie directed by, I believe it's Richard Kelly, who directed Donnie Darko, and brings together a whole cadre of actors to tell some kind of weird sci-fi story. Dan, do you want to take a crack at this story, what it's about?
Sure. In a dystopian future, not too distant from our own, World War III is declared, the Patriot Act gets, jacked up. States are pretty much their own autonomous governments now. This is pretty much set in California, and there's all kinds of weird people making all kinds of weird techs, there's new drugs, and there's all kinds of weird splinter groups, communist groups and stuff at work, and it pretty much culminates in a giant clusterfuck with The Rock and Sarah Michelle Gellar and that dude from Night Court and John Lovitz just running around going apeshit for about 2 hours. And it has a musical number. Performed
by Justin Timberlake, I believe.
Yes, yeah, and it actually really isn't bad.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Dan gave it, you gave it your best shot, but there's a lot going on in this movie with regards to either, the politics. It's kind of like an alternate 2008 timeline, and it is a very not so subtle jab at the Bush administration, but also talking about pop culture, taking kind of a swipe at a bunch of different things, and the cast that he assembled for this is very eclectic, to say the least. Like, you mentioned a couple there. You mentioned The Rock. You mentioned Sarah Michelle Gellar. John Larroquette, I believe, the guy from Night Court.
Yeah. I will just always know him as the guy from Night Court.
But also...
Him and Harry Anderson have the same nomenclature in my mind.
But who else is there? There's...
Got the Highlander.
Yep. Christopher Lambert in an ice cream truck. Amy Poehler, Sherry O'Terry, Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, that's right.
As he's kind of the villain, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, this movie had a 44 Metascore.
It's polarizing, I guess, to say at least. I'm trying to remember some trivia. I think it only made back 600,000. Of course, it didn't really have a wide release, but still.
Yeah, that seems weird to me because on my first viewing of this, I hated all the characters for the first half hour, and I'm like, this is just dumb. But then you realize that the movie hates them too, so it's okay.
Yeah, it ends up just putting people through the ringer for no reason other than to just put people in really, I guess, awkward and painful situations.
Yeah, when they kidnap Sean William Scott, or does he do the kidnapping? I don't remember.
But there's this whole thing with Sean William Scott posing as his brother in order to frame The Rock.
Right. And then they run into John Lovitz, and John Lovitz is just murking people.
Which is
and he's
really,
a cop, and it's just okay.
It's really surreal to see John Lovitz be the badass in something.
Yeah, I end up liking this film because it is just so balls to the wall and insane. Even if you don't like what's going on, that'll change in 30 seconds, so whatever.
Yeah, it jumps around to various characters throughout this film, and honestly I kind of have the same feeling towards it as you do, wherein I'm not really invested in any kind of story so much, but the little vignettes and little moments characters have with each other are kind of hilarious, unintentionally or intentionally.
Yeah, I kind of bad for the Rock the whole time, because he's just, anytime something violent happens, he just runs away. And he's got this like sad look on his face. I don't know, I just find that great.
I will say it was one of the first movies, aside from, it was this and I think The Rundown. This is like when The Rock was just getting started in movie. I mean, he'd been in movies for a while up until that point, but nothing really stood out to me aside from probably The Rundown with him. But I kind of liked his skittish, nervous like tics throughout this movie. He's whispering like really vehemently towards Seann William Scott about who knows what.
Yeah, and it's not like he has to carry the film, but I think he does a good job. I mean, better than a professional wrestler turned actor should.
And honestly, I kind of like you said, the musical number in it with Justin Timberlake is pretty good, but I actually like what Justin Timberlake was doing, just kind of playing this spaced out, like PTSD-ridden war vet. And just shooting himself up full of drugs.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just a giant mess. But, I mean, at least I found it highly entertaining.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, there's so much going on that even if, like, you've got the mad scientist dude, and you've got the Rock who just doesn't know what the hell's going on the whole time. You know, people are trying to coerce his now porn star girlfriend, even though he's married or a fiance to, like, the president's daughter?
Yeah, Mandy Moore is Mandy Moore is the daughter who's engaged to The Rock, and she's the daughter of this senator, I believe, California senator, who was Donnie's dad in Donnie Darko.
But I mean, the whole thing is just so absurd that you just kind of sit back and kind of enjoy the ride.
Ultimately, that's what I sometimes do, is I actually own it on DVD, and I'll actually just put it on if I'm just like, I'm in the mood to not think about anything and just let randomness occur, and it does kind of fulfill that for me.
I mean, I bought the Blu-ray on your specifications. Yeah, your recommendation, and I'm not selling it. I mean, it has a nice spot there next to Superman and Stargate. So
nice. Well, I'm glad you got I'm glad you got a purchase out of it. So, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just a weird movie, but it's got like some pretty fun quirks at times that I can get behind. It's not as clean cut as Donnie was, definitely.
This is more like if you had like an ensemble cast like 12 Angry Men.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all schizophrenic and just wandering around the town with cameras following them. This is kind of what you would get.
Did you have like a favorite character or favorite moment in the movie? I know there's quite a few to choose, I'm sure, but
I like when it turns into a sci-fi movie in like the last 20 minutes, like hardcore.
With Seann William Scott shaking hands with his brother.
Well, that, and when The Rock goes into where they have his old body.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the hell's going on now?
And Kevin Smith's there dressed up like an old man.
And you got the mad scientist dude with the weird water power.
Yeah, the power of the ocean or whatever.
Yeah. It just makes so many bizarre turns. The whole Rock when he finds his own body, and John Lovitz when he's just murking people. Those are my favorite parts of this.
I'd have to say a couple of my favorite parts were it has to deal with the power of the waves and so forth. When that commercial, they're launching that commercial for those wave-powered Humvees.
Yeah.
And it's like a Pixar animation, but it gets very, very naughty with the Humvees.
Yeah, I don't get it, but at the same time, it's just so amusing.
As soon as I see it, reminded me a lot of Videodrome at times, because as soon as I saw that tailpipe start to pulsate, I'm like, oh no, really? It's gonna be like watching turtles fuck or something. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like you've got to put sex in everything in this future.
Yeah,
and that's what they come up with.
And you just cut to like John Larroquette and the senator like standing aside, being like, "Did I just see a car hump another car?" Like, I kind of like that deadpan delivery. What was the again, so many like cameos or so many people in like supporting roles. Like, there were actually some people cut. Like, Janine Garofalo is in there somewhere. You can see her like towards the end partying with Justin Timberlake. But apparently she had a whole like storyline that was cut out for time. But I don't know why.
I want to see the extended cut of this now.
I think she had a couple of scenes that were just cut out, but I don't know why, because it feels like everything was thrown into this movie. It's like, I didn't even know if he bothered throwing stuff out. It doesn't seem like it, because it's like he was like, whatever story's in there, we'll just throw it out there. But I'm trying to think. So there was the car commercial, and I do like some of the catchphrases. That is my one annoyance with the movie, is it seems like for all the zaniness and just random storylines taking place that are enjoyable, it feels at times that the characters are solely there to spew out some kind of catchphrase that's supposed to be cool.
Yeah, like some kind of weird propaganda.
Yeah, well, like The Rock is like, I'm a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide.
Yeah.
Or like Sarah Michelle Gellar's, deep down everyone knows they want to be a porn star, or something like, just weird lines that don't have any purpose there in the movie, except for the fact that he wanted to get some, taglines out there in the nebula. But of course, in this movie, it's hard to tell like what dialogue would make sense in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, as disjointed as this whole thing is, it comes together pretty well. I mean, in like the in the cinematographic sense. Aha. It's a new word for you too.
Well, what do you think happened at the end? Spoilers.
I don't think you're supposed to know. It's like a more baffling end of The Sopranos.
Yeah, same cutout to black too.
Yeah, I mean, my version of the end of The Sopranos is everybody had a nice meal and went home, and everybody was happy.
I'm pretty sure not a lot of people went home at the end of this movie.
Yeah. This. I mean, a lot of shit blows up, and then.
Oh, that was my other favorite part, is Christopher Lambert getting beaten up by Sherry O'Terry. He's like, "Get the fuck out of my ice cream truck."
Yeah, I don't see that really happening, but it is pretty good.
Oh no! I mean, yeah, that's hilarious. But he sells it, and she is pretty psychotic. So I guess we're kind of agreeing that this is at least worth a watch, and whether or not you enjoy it is completely up to how much you're accepting of weird shit.
I mean, the movie is, really well shot.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It doesn't seem as disjointed as it is if you thought about it. So if we just pop it in, I mean, it's kind of like, I guess you could say, like, the art of cinema for cinema's sake.
Yeah, like it's a really like weird with some faux pretentiousness in it kind of art film.
Yeah, but still, it does its job. It's not boring.
No, it is not boring. Yeah, I'll give it that.
You kind of put it on, and you're just like, oh, well, that happened. And that's the whole movie is different that happened in a row.
So if you're a fan of a good 2 hours of, that happened, and you're okay with that, I'd recommend it, definitely, because I get in that mood.
This definitely gets a recommendation.
Yeah. I'm glad we kind of agree on that one, because now we're going to get into something a little bit meatier, hopefully. This was a release this year. I believe Southland Tales came out 2007, 2008. This is just this year. The director of movies like Drive and Only God Forgives came out with a new film entitled The Neon Demon, starring, I think it's Elle Fanning was in it.
Yes, Elle or Ellie, I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of the Fannings is in it. Speaking of Donnie Darko, Jenna Malone's in it. Christina Hendricks, of course, he's worked with her before in Drive, and Keanu Reeves shows up for a little bit. But a bunch of different actors show up in this, and it's basically, I'll tackle, I guess, the story on this. It's basically about a young girl comes to LA to pursue a modeling career. It's kind of about the rough and tumble and competitiveness involved in modeling, and feeling disconnected and so forth. Takes a weird turn at the end, to say the least. I mean, we'll have our opinions about this movie, but it went somewhere I wasn't anticipating at the very end. And let me turn over to Dan about this. What did you think? Because I've been looking forward to this from you.
I think your synopsis is wrong, sir. This is a movie about people getting stuff glued to their face and then staring past the camera for hours on end. That's what this is. Okay, on Amazon, because, it says it's an Amazon film, because I guess they produced it somewhat, they call it a horror film. But the problem with that is that nothing happens until the last 15 minutes. Like, I was convinced watching this that I was somehow watching what they cut out of the movie, and just glued it all together, because in almost every scene where something should happen, you get like a model staring past the camera, and then when something should happen, it just cuts and you're at the next scene. Like the first time she's modeling that you actually see her like meet the photographer, he tells her to strip down, and she looks all scared, and I don't know if that's supposed to be acting or not, but
nervous,
then
I guess.
He comes over and he paints her with gold paint, and she's already got this like idiotic thing glued to her face. You see her just staring ahead with this vapid expression, and then it cuts. So it's like there was a build-up there. I mean, she's nervous. The guy's, obviously, I guess, doing his job as a photographer. But, there's no... It just breaks anything that scene could have been, because it just cuts and you see the next thing. Yeah. And the movie does this time after time. And it was just boring me. I kept hitting the X button on my Xbox One, like, how long is this?
To check. Well, I did warn you up front. I'm like, this is one of those movies. It seems like it is one of those films where it's right down the middle. It's like you're gonna enjoy it or you're not gonna enjoy it. I'm kind of delighted that you didn't enjoy it. Sorry.
That's fine. I mean, I put you through Ichi the Killer, which you did not enjoy.
Right. So it's about time.
But at least in that film, shit happened.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you with regards to the pacing of some scenes, especially within the first, I want to say, 20 minutes of the movie. I was kind of doing the same thing, too, where you were kind of checking to see, like, oh, is this going to be all of it? What did you think of his Nicholas Winding Refn's previous films, like Drive and Only God Forgives?
I hated Only God Forgives because it was just like cardboard people do goofy things. I thought it just didn't really seem to have a point. And, I'm cool with movies like not having a point, like, you know what I watch.
Yeah.
Like The Killing of Satan has no moral value, I don't think.
Well, there's a story there.
It just seemed like, something rehashed with a bunch of bright lights.
So you felt that it fell a little bit more on the Only God Forgives side for you than... Yeah,
I mean, it's all style, but not substance. Like, I'm cool with slow films. Like, I'll happily watch Rashomon in that, like, 20-minute shot of a tree in the beginning, because I know it's going to go somewhere. But this, I mean, every shot is just, either a static or a slow panning shot that just goes on forever.
And I feel like that's kind of his aesthetic too in a lot of his movies, that you're going to either be on board with or not. And I agree that there's got to be more to it than just that. The reason I'm falling more on the side of I like this movie is because, yeah, I didn't like Only for God Forgives either, but I felt like at least there was something a little bit more going on with the characters in this movie than there was in Only God Forgives. In Only God Forgives, I can't even recall to you, like, what anyone's motivation was outside of his mom, who's just weird and compares her son's dick sizes for some reason. That's the only thing I remember about that movie, is that his mom is just really weird, and hence why Ryan Gosling is always quiet and looking to beat someone up, I guess. But there was nothing.
Pretty bad fight scenes, but that's what.
Yeah, there was nothing to him though. There was nothing to that lieutenant or detective or whatever he was that was pursuing him. There was nothing to his girlfriend. Honestly, his girlfriend was probably one of the more sympathetic characters in that movie, just because I was like, man, she better distance herself from whatever the hell's going on here quick. But I just couldn't get into whatever conflict was going on with there. In Neon Demon, I feel, it's very minimal, and I feel that's his approach too, is with his actors. There's always going to be some kind of minimal approach or minimal emoting. I feel that is kind of purposely chosen aesthetic to kind of show emotional detachment in certain situations when usually there wouldn't be one, maybe. But I still felt there was still something a little bit more going on with Elle Fanning, at least. Like, at least, you know, she appeared somewhat likable at times, and, you know, I could get a sense of what kind of struggle she was going through, even though, you know, like you mentioned, in certain scenes it didn't really play it out so much. Like the way you were saying, it would cut away and immediately there'd be a mood shift. There were moments I felt where I could understand, like, yeah, she's nervous as hell about this whole new world of, you know, superficiality and so forth. And then when she finally does become kind of emotionally detached to everything, I kind of bought that transition a little bit more. But then the ending happened, and I'm like, what's this?
I don't know. I'm not on board with you there about her transformation. I guess you could say. She looks all like, you know, scared and stuff, but is that supposed to be all an act? Because then she ends up telling the one chick, I can take care of myself. I know what I'm doing. Then she makes out with some weird triangle mirrors, and then she's a total bitch to everybody.
I mean, I guess I just kind of interpret that as like maybe she did want to show off she had a little like guff to her and so forth, and that was her finally resigning to the superficiality of it all. Now I'm reading a lot into stuff that may or may not be there, but I mean, at least it did that for me more than it did in something like Only God Forgives, where everyone's pissed off at everyone else for reasons, except they don't look pissed off. They look kind of bored.
Well, that's what everybody looks like in here, with two exceptions.
Who are your two exceptions?
The boyfriend guy and Keanu Reeves.
I dug Keanu. Anytime I see sleazy Keanu Reeves in a movie, I'm kind of on board already. So,
with the rest of this cast, I mean, you pretty much have to. I mean, at least he has some kind of life. Like, the light's on behind his eyes. You know, he's like, I'm gonna act and say some lines and actually do something. Holy crap, that's a tiger. Everyone else just kind of sits there. Like at the end, even with the blonde on the couch that the photographer comes and, you know, grabs, and she's supposed to be like the next sacrifice maybe or something. Yeah. She just, it's painfully slow, the dialogue, and I refuse that people actually act like that, you know?
Well, that's the thing too, is like I kind of tell myself that too as well. It's like, this is clearly like an exaggeration. Like I don't know, for some reason I can accept that more than I can in, like I said, other movies where that happens. I don't know what it was about this one in particular. I think it was genuinely just the fucked upness of the last third of the film that I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming. I'm interested in where this is going now. So it was kind of a morbid curiosity on my part. What did you think of the turn there?
At that point, I didn't care. I was promised a horror film from the outset, and like, the last 5 minutes, it finally turns into a horror film. Like, the chick gets pushed into a pool and breaks her head, I guess, and then everybody bathes and eats part of her, and then somebody throws up. The end. It just seems so, I don't know. Remember when we covered The Veil? Yeah. And we said that, oh God, what's her name?
Jessica Alba?
Yeah. Like she just looked extremely bored the whole film. Now, if you clone that and made a whole movie with two other people and a whole bunch of really bored Jessica Albas, you end up with this.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely. For some reason, because of the context of the way everything was happening, because of that world and how that world is kind of, you know, like you said, it is an exaggeration probably of what that world of modeling and superficiality is actually like, but I somehow bought it a little bit more in that than in something else where I expect characters to be more, you know, emotionally invested in stuff. Like, I don't know, for me the detachment and kind of, like you mentioned before, kind of blandness didn't faze me so much, I guess, given just the environment of it.
When I think of modeling, you got to have a light guy, and then there's always like makeup and prop people. It's not just like one dude in the dark taking pictures. And this, like, when the movie starts, he's taking pictures of her, you know, in her, I guess her throat's cut, because that's friggin' artsy, isn't it? I see that on the cover of magazine. And there's blood everywhere. But when she goes back, then she meets the makeup artist.
Who, Jenna Malone, right?
So who put all the blood on her? I mean, because that's a hell of a job. They gotta put the polka dots on her face and then dress her up with that. Put some more makeup, splat blood all over her place, and then she goes out and meets the photographer. It's not. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is just empty, and I guess it goes with that theme. But you haven't made an interesting movie. You just made a very empty, boring movie. And that's what gets me. You found my Achilles heel, Mike. Like I can deal with movies as long as something is going on.
I get it. Even again, it's just down to different tastes and so forth. Because I wasn't really bored on anything necessarily, and the logistics of, like you were saying, the logistics of that stuff. It was more just, I wasn't really focused on those details so much probably as you were. It was just more about kind of, honestly, it was a lot of surreal visual stuff that I was kind of vibing to for the most part. Yeah, it can get gratuitous at times, but then again, I kind of put that into the context of this, world that they're setting up, or this world that they're having a commentary on, where, yeah, glitz and glamour and all this weird aesthetic is going to be blown way out of proportion anyways. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, at least this type of story can play to his visual sensibilities. Yeah, I mean, I can see it from there too. If you're kind of like, if you feel like there wasn't more to it than that, and that can be aggravating, definitely. But I blame the movie, because if the movie was more interesting, I wouldn't have to think about this. You see, it makes me start thinking about things outside of the movie, because there ain't shit going on screen. Well, I mean, that's the different appeal then, is that, I don't know, which one would you want to see more before the other? Only God Forgives or this one? I hate saying it, but Only God Forgives. Okay. This is just so, like, anytime anything's going to start happening, it's like they're like, oh, way too much on screen. Gotta cut now. like when they go to the weird club and like weird shit starts going on, and they got some weird bondage dancer person. It's just like we're just gonna strobe this shit in your face and then get a weird reaction shot and then strobe some more and we're done. Well, so what's the point of going to the club? Dude, I'm not gonna lie. There was some Lower East Side artistes that I hung around with for a couple of years when I was in New York City, and there were exhibitions very much like that taking place and honestly, that was kind of the same reaction I would have to some of that too. I'd be kind of like, huh, okay. Like she did, I mean, her reaction to it was kind of a similar reaction. I'm kind of like getting a feel of the place and being like, not letting on that this is blowing my mind right now, but at the same time trying to stay like just calm and not try to show too much emotion either way. That was kind of my reaction whenever I went to my first kind of basement gallery exhibition thing where some performance artist would be doing something along these lines. I kind of just stand there with a mute expression on my face, but in the back of my head I'm going like, this is either amazing or this is ridiculous. Like, maybe that was what was going through her head. She doesn't express it, but in the back you can kind of suss out maybe like she's either freaking out or she's enthralled. But at least, I mean, you got to experience the performance art. I mean, we just got like weird strobes and then reaction and then some more strobes. Like, you can barely see what's going on. Well, so I'm not gonna lie, that's what some of the exhibitions turned out to be. Sometimes I could never really make out what was going on. I think at one point there was one dude who had his head in a box for about 5 minutes in a strobe light, and I was like, that's it? But I didn't say that out loud, of course. I just nodded my head and kept a very mute expression, but in the back of my head, brilliant. I'm like, I paid $5 for this? Oh, what the hell, dude? No, I mean, it wasn't just that. There was a variety of performers, at least, so. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I completely get why this wouldn't vibe with some folks, and why clearly it doesn't really vibe with you, and that's perfectly fine. I get it. Like, I feel you have to either, like you said, you have to be able to kind of, I don't know, maybe be in a certain mood for this, because I was actually just in a pretty just relaxing mood, and regardless of what the stories are in this guy's movies, I love the camera work in all his films so far. Even Only God Forgives. I don't like the story in Only God Forgives, but at least I can appreciate, like, he can set up beautiful shots.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, but it's just, I mean, here's how bad it was for me. I felt like I wasted my time. And you know what I normally watch. I mean, I watch, like, hours of wrestling a week, okay? I mean, but this movie wasted my time. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I keep going over the same ground, but it just feels so vapid. Like, it's stylistically cool, but then it just never goes anywhere. And then somebody eats an eyeball and it's over. But I mean, I guess that would gross me out had I not seen the thousands of horror movies that I've seen.
Yeah, or in the case of the viewing of the movie, had you actually cared up until that, up to that point?
Yeah, it's just like, thank God she's dead. Somebody ate her eye, and the movie's over. Okay.
At that point, you're like, oh, thank God, it's going to end.
Are those credits? It started doing the whole Krusty Beach thing. I'm like, oh God, is there more of this? And the music starts, and then there was, directed by some douche, and I was like, yeah.
A question I would pose to you then, with regards to this, do you feel there's another movie out there that does this same similar premise and does it well, that you would recommend over this?
Almost. Check out Dario Argento's Opera. It doesn't have, it has some of the isolation, but it has a better ending. And I'm watching the cars screwing in Southland Tales now because it got to that much.
This talk about Neon Demon made you put on Southland.
And the hood opens. All right.
When in doubt, when you've been beaten down by Neon Demon, put on the car fucking scene from Southland Tales.
Yeah,
that's Dan's recommendation.
Great. I mean, I put it on. I've been watching it since, because there's no way I'm putting on Neon Demon again. not this soon.
So your recommendation for Neon Demon is to watch Southland instead, or Dario Argento?
Watch his Opera. I mean, the movie's called Opera. It's not actually an opera by Dario Argento, although that would be cool. Yeah, it still has, like, some pretentiousness, and, the main character is, a diva, so you've got the same kind of, like, I'm apart from you because I've got this awesome voice and I can sing. Now we're doing Macbeth and somebody's killing everybody to hard rock song. But yeah, I think that got, like, the same feeling, just done a ton better.
So those are Dan's recommendations. Seeing as how I'm on the other side of this, I would say I would just recommend maybe you check out Neon Demon once and you decide for yourself whether or not it's your cup of tea or not. I'd say definitely if you can't get past the first 20 minutes or so, if you still find it difficult to invest past like the 20-minute mark, maybe it's not going to be your cup of tea, probably. But like I said, I don't know. I know style over substance isn't always a good way to go. For some reason, with this guy's movies, with the exception, of course, of Only God Forgives, just because, I don't know, something about that movie's story irritates me more than this one. I guess maybe because of the context that, like, I expect this type of pacing probably from this type of, like you said, vapid, superficial, but I think that's the intention. But at the same time, yeah, I completely understand if this is not for you. I just personally, the visuals and the style of it just kind of works for me more so than it does in other movies. And definitely when that twist comes or when the reveal comes, at least I was kind of like, okay, I'm still here. Where's this going now? It got my curiosity enough. And like I said, I can't resist a sleazy Keanu Reeves performance, even though he's, only in it for a few scenes. But
yeah, I mean, he pretty much brightens up the film, but he's only in there for like 5 to 10 minutes,
So if anything, catch it for some Keanu scenes, if anything. It's like if John Wick turned out to be a really bad dude and started running a hotel.
Yeah, I just wanted him to just start punching everybody in the face. like the entire cast. Not, I mean, in the film. I mean, in real life.
Okay. So, I found a movie finally that...
going, why can't you act? Why can't you act?
I finally found a movie that pissed off Dan. I'm so happy.
That's cool.
No, it's about time, too. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
No, I'm a, cinematic masochist. I mean, it's hard to find something that bothers me, and you did, sir.
Yeah, I pride myself on that. Yeah, you've been taking a lot of these in stride, and I've been kind of aggravated more that I'm like, oh, that didn't push your buttons quite so much. And finally, yes, this one did.
Find me something where nothing happens and it promises me a horror film and doesn't deliver.
Now, I can't remember, does Amazon promise you a horror film, or did I promise you a horror film?
Let me see. I think you both did. But,
Sorry. Well, in that case, I apologize. I can't speak on behalf of Amazon, but
on behalf of Amazon, hold on. Let me find the blurb on my Kindle. When aspiring model Jessie moves to Los Angeles, her youth and vitality are devoured by a group of beauty-obsessed women who will use any means necessary to get what she has in this horror thriller.
I don't know. I probably would have maybe put a little bit more in the lines of like suspense as opposed to horror. Thriller, a couple of scenes there, but yeah, nothing. I don't know. More along the lines of maybe like moody or suspense as opposed to horror.
I mean, you had people bathing in blood at the end, like some kind of weird Countess Bathory thing.
They kind of gave away the big twist in the description too. They couldn't have phrased that another way. Huh.
Well, I mean, it's not like Audition, you know, where like everything's kind of normal and then it gets weird and then it's a full-blown horror film.
Mm-hmm.
This is just kind of like you're watching nothing. Now it's slightly scary. Now it's over. I mean, I could see how you could like it. It's just, I don't know. It just comes off as way too artsy-fartsy.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying anything to me, and it just makes me angry.
Oh no, I get it, and I can see definitely how people can view it as such. Again, I don't know what it is about this movie over Only God Forgives. I think it's just more. I just feel like it's more in the know about what it is than Only God Forgives was. I don't know. Is there any kind of story or any kind of movie you'd want to see this director take on that you would enjoy?
I don't know. I really don't. You could try a DC movie. Nobody else can do it. So
Jesus.
At least you'd get some pretty artwork, you know. I mean, it would be like a comic book.
Well, we already
literally,
got that.
It would be like a comic book.
Yeah, Zack Snyder already has movies with pretty pictures in them that tell zero story.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he can do something. The guy seems talented. I don't know what it is about him and like super wooden actors. Like maybe it's what he wants, but it's not what I want him to want. So I'm not sure.
But anyways, you've been listening to McChats here on McGTV. That's youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Thank you once again, Dan. I'm sorry I put you through hell.
That's fine. No, I mean, I'm still kicking. Give me more. All
right. Well, check out more of Dan over at the Three Geeks Podcast, youtube.com/Three Geeks Network, or on Twitter at Three Geeks Podcast. We'll probably be back with some more films here, maybe films that push our respective buttons, maybe ones that we'll agree on. We'll probably be giving you more of the Coffin Joe stuff pretty soon, so just keep tuning in, and it should be a good time.